From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Monday morning. It's 5:30. Welcome to Montana This Morning. I'm Victoria Hill. Thank you so much for kicking off your day and the week with us. And we also welcome Miller with a fiery orange-red sky behind us
yeah,
there.
look at that out there in the background. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous?
What does this mean?
It's going to be a dry, hot day.
It screams dry, hot day already.
Ooh, man, I tell you, we're already on fire in the sky out there this morning. Yeah, folks, today we're going to be warmer than average, kind of like yesterday in the mid 80s, but we're only getting hotter as we move for the rest of the week. And it's going to be very, very dry out there. Right now, 62 at the airport. We should be in the mid 50s, so this shows you what kind of weather we have on the way. We're already warmer than normal to start the day. Humidity at 50%. Winds out of the north at about 7 miles an hour. So we take a look at temperatures across the viewing area quickly. Cowley sitting at 64. Crow Agency at 57. Had a chance to go down there yesterday. I'll tell you more about that coming up. 56 in Roundup. Ingomar at 62. And Harlingen sitting at about 53. Highs today, low to mid to upper 80s. And we're only getting hotter. By the time we get tomorrow, we'll be in the low 90s. We actually may flirt with that today. We may get hotter than that 86 that I've got for us this afternoon. We hit 89 yesterday in Billings, so would not be surprised. But yeah, we're just getting hotter and we're getting drier. But do we have any rain in the forecast? Maybe by the end of the week down south. We'll take a look at that and a whole lot more with the main forecast coming up here in just a bit, Victoria.
Sounds like a plan. And in the meantime, I will get to some news, which actually happens to be weather related.
Okay.
Thanks, Miller. We start this morning with the latest on wildfires burning in our area near Roundup. The Painted Horse Fire, which sparked on Saturday, burning more than 250 acres, is now under control. It's burning in the North Delphia subdivision. More than 100 firefighters worked quickly to build a containment line, and the fire didn't grow yesterday. Officials report crews made significant headway by mopping up the perimeter of the fire. Crews from the Forest Service, BLM, and hotshots will be taken off the fire, but local volunteer firefighters and the DNRC will continue monitoring it. The Robertson Draw fire burning near Red Lodge is now 65% contained. Crews are concerned about the western side of the fire and continue to protect structures. The man accused of setting the fire is set to be arraigned in Carbon County next week, Wednesday. And new this morning, firefighters were able to make significant progress on the Crooked Creek fire in the Pryor Mountains. It's now 72% contained, a jump from just 32% reported early Sunday. The nearly 4,000-acre fire is burning 25 miles east of Bridger. Conditions are expected to become more challenging for firefighters as we enter a week with temperatures expected to reach record highs. Officials say that will cut down on natural moisture. Now we go to Park County, where one person has died after a train collided with a semi-truck east of Livingston. Responding Montana Highway Patrol troopers say the semi was struck getting off Interstate 90 near mile marker 350. The truck driver died at the scene. Troopers say it's too early to tell what caused the crash, but they are investigating. It happened around 9:30 last night. Also making headlines this morning, the death toll has risen to 9 after 4 more bodies were recovered from the South Florida condo that collapsed last week. Rescue crews from around the world are still digging through the rubble, hoping to find survivors. CBS's Tina Kraus has the latest.
Miami-Dade rescue crews are working alongside teams from Israel and Mexico in the search for survivors.
There's always hope.
They're going to keep having high hopes until the moment we cannot work anymore.
Rescuers say the operation is especially difficult because of how the building fell.
When there's an earthquake, the buildings move side to side, so when they fall, there's holes that the rescuers can come in, and this was kind of like an implosion, which made the building flat.
Crews have dug a massive 125-foot-long trench that's allowed them to find some human remains.
We continue to sweep the mound with our canines, using all of the technology available to us and machinery to lift the debris.
While it may take months to determine a cause, a survey from 2018 indicated abundant cracking in concrete columns and major structural damage to a concrete slab, but it did not warn of a collapse.
I have a lot of survivor's guilt on this, why me and why not my neighbor from 604.
Alfredo Lopez was asleep in apartment 605 when he was jolted awake.
Everything that I saw when I opened the door, facing east, there was nothing there. It was just darkness, and that is undescribable. You know, it's freaky as freaky can be.
Heavy machinery is removing large pieces of the rubble, which are being taken to a warehouse for forensic evaluation. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
That 2018 survey also estimated the repairs were going to cost $9 million. Roof construction was underway, but fixes to the concrete and other structural damage had not yet begun. The collapse has some Florida cities reviewing policies around building codes. Miami is now asking for inspections of all buildings 6 stories or higher that are 40 years old or older. Florida has some of the strongest building codes in the country due to its exposure to hurricanes. The majority of Miami-Dade County's residential towers were constructed before 1990. That's when Hurricane Andrew led to stronger building codes. Today, President Joe Biden will meet with a member of Israel's outgoing administration about efforts to re-enter the Iran nuclear deal. The leaders will also discuss Israel's 11-day war with Palestinian militants in Gaza, along with Israel's formation of a new government. The meeting will happen at the White House. President Biden is saying the United States and Israel share the same goal to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. Yesterday, President Biden ordered airstrikes against sites the Pentagon says were used by Iran-backed groups. They happened near the border between Iraq and Syria. A Pentagon spokesperson says Iran-backed militants used the sites to launch unmanned aerial vehicle attacks against U.S. troops in Iraq. The strikes targeted 2 weapons storage facilities in Syria and 1 in Iraq. The Pentagon says the airstrikes demonstrate President Biden has been clear that he will act to protect U.S. personnel. Some renters can breathe a little easier this week. The nationwide eviction moratorium was supposed to end on Wednesday, but the CDC has extended it to 1 more month. But as reporter Joe St. George explains, no additional extensions are expected, so it's time for renters behind on their payments to make a plan.
For months, the end of June was supposed to be the return of evictions, but the CDC, for what's supposed to be the last time, has extended the eviction moratorium until the end of July. While much of the economy is back up and running, it's estimated eviction protections have helped anywhere between 30 to 40 million people since the pandemic began. That's according to the nonpartisan Aspen Institute. For perspective, in February of 2020, before the pandemic, the unemployment rate was 3.5%. That meant about 5 million were unemployed. In April of last year, the unemployment rate rose to 14.7%, which equates to 23 million or so unemployed Americans. Last month, unemployment was at 5.8%. That's still higher than before the pandemic, but much lower than when the economy was at its worst. With the White House signaling there will be no more extensions beyond July, now is the time for renters who are struggling to get a plan. Pew Research indicates more than 7 million renters were behind on their rent last month.
Eviction moratoriums are likely to vary from region to region. For instance, here in New York, the governor has extended it a few more months. And in other states, new programs have been enacted to help renters get back on track.
For example, in California, leaders there may have the most ambitious program so far. State lawmakers are putting the finishing touches on a $5.2 billion rent payoff program. Leftover COVID funds are expected to pay for it. That means Californians facing eviction will potentially get a rent bailout soon. It's unclear how many other states may follow.
A lot of the times, tenants don't really know their rights.
Kendrick Thomas is with Bread for the City, a nonprofit that helps low-income earners in Washington, D.C. He says if you are a renter facing a possible eviction in the coming weeks, know that in every state there are free legal services you can take advantage of. Having a lawyer, he says, always increases your chances of getting a better outcome in court. Not to mention there may be rental assistance you can take advantage of.
When it comes to landlords, about 95% have representation in the court. Do you know what the percentage is for tenants? 10%.
As for landlords, many are furious. The eviction ban is not expiring this week as planned. The National Apartment Association has expressed, quote, extreme disappointment, saying many landlords are struggling to pay their bills too. I'm Joe St. George reporting.
In other news, today lawyers for the Trump Organization will meet with prosecutors from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. Prosecutors gave the Trump Organization until the end of today to make final arguments for why the organization should not face criminal charges. Prosecutors have been investigating whether the Trump Organization gave misleading property values to get loans or to lower its tax liability. Charges could be handed down against the company as a whole or individuals. The former president has called the investigation politically motivated. Nursing homes and assisted living facilities are having a tough time recovering from the pandemic. A survey of more than 800 facilities found the workforce situation is worse now than it was last year. The worker shortages range from housekeeping to registered nurses and nursing assistants. The American Healthcare Association has proposed the Care for Our Seniors Act to Congress. The act includes things like better pay and a focus on resident safety. An unprecedented and dangerous heat wave is hitting parts of the U.S., demolishing records, including here in Montana. But as CBS's Laura Podesta reports, it's going to be hot almost everywhere in America.
Meteorologists say the extreme temperatures hitting the Pacific Northwest are unlike anything they've seen before in the region. Some temperatures are 40 degrees above normal.
Quite simply, this is the most dangerous and most intense heat wave I have seen in my career in the Pacific Northwest. In fact, it's a very large heat dome. It's about a 1 in 1,000 year event that's taking place across Oregon, Washington, and also into British Columbia.
COVID-19 is making the situation worse. Cooling shelters, community centers, or public buildings where people without air conditioning can normally get some relief are offering limited seating or none at all.
This is difficult. I don't know why the police station is closed to the public.
Cities are reminding residents where pools and splash pads are located and urging folks to stay hydrated.
Here in New York City, a heat wave coupled with humidity could make the real field temperature soar to 105.
In Nevada, heat warnings are in effect as temperatures could also reach 105. And AC units aren't just for comfort anymore.
It's more of a necessity. And they're going pretty quick right now. We've already had 1 or 2 emergency supplies come in.
The Southwest heat is coupling with extremely dry conditions. Residents celebrating July 4th are being reminded not to light fireworks anywhere near dry brush to avoid sparking wildfires. Laura Podesta, CBS News.
Thank you so much for starting your day with us here on Montana this morning. Coming up, people are officially going back to the movie theater. We'll tell you how much money last week's biggest movie brought in as the box office numbers continue to climb. It's 59 degrees in downtown Billings, and we are coming up on a 542. Stay with us. Miller's weather forecast is coming up after this.